Handle Your Business, a weekly podcast discussing a little of this and a little of that. Handle Your Business appropriately blends serious topics with fun topics, all in an effort to help you have a good or better life. So join me, your host, Lady Lashley, and some amazing guests every Sunday at 5 p.m. to explore everything from financial management to dealing with relationship challenges. Put it in your calendar every Sunday from 5 p.m. Tune in to Handle Your Business to get you ready for the week ahead. For more details, follow at Lady Lashley TT on Instagram and Facebook. Handle Your Business. Welcome to another episode of Handle Your Business with yours truly, Lady Lashley. Today I have with me Registered Dietitian Kezia Campbell. Hi, Kezia.
Hi, Glendora.
All right. Thank you for taking the time out. Everybody have busy schedules these days, so thank you for taking the time to do this podcast episode with me. We're talking about improving diet, and this is something that is critical, especially in Tobago, Trinidad, and the Caribbean region. You know, we suffer from a lot of lifestyle diseases. The pandemic didn't make it any better for many of us, and so the idea is to explore, in general terms, right now, how we can all, especially those of us that need it most, improve our diets. And so that's why we have Registered Dietitian Kezia here. Kezia, I need you to, before we jump into all of this discussion, what exactly is a dietitian? How you got involved in becoming a dietitian?
Okay, so that's a great question. So a dietitian is anyone who is trained in providing some nutritional advice. And this is for the population within the country. So dietitians, they work in many different settings, in hospitals, in health centers. They work in food manufacturing industry. They have private practices. They are involved in university work as well as research. And they are also regulated by the laws in their country to make sure that they provide sound and accurate information for that population so that they can remain healthy for as long as possible. So that's one of our main roles as dietitians, to share information like I'm doing now to you, and make sure that persons get accurate information. Now, anybody could call themselves a nutrition expert, but the term registered dietitian, it is also regulated by law. So not everyone can call themselves a registered dietitian or a dietitian.
Ah, okay, very interesting. Because, you know, we have a lot of people who believe that, you know, things that the granny and the tanty and the nene used to do, that in their minds worked, and they master, or they believe they master it. They could come and tell you, okay, well, try this, do that. And maybe you get some success, maybe you don't. So you're saying the law now regulates who actually practices to be a dietitian. Interesting fact that you raised there. It is specific to your country. So if you wanted to, if somebody from Jamaica, Barbados, Grenada, one of the other Caribbean islands, or even the diaspora in the US, called you and asked you for dietary advice or dietary consultation, is it that you're not able to provide that information to them because you are in Trinidad and Tobago?
Yes. So what happens is, usually a registered dietitian must go through a series of a couple of years of training to become a dietitian. So 3 to 4 years, sometimes more. You must be qualified at least with a Bachelor's of Science in Human Nutrition and Dietetics, and would have done an institutional internship where you would have gotten the experience to do so. And in the US, the UK, Canada, and those countries, you also have to complete a board exam before you do get your license to practice. And in many instances, this may actually be by state. So somebody who is a registered dietitian in, let's say, New York may not be able to practice in a different state in the US because they would not be licensed to practice there. So yes, so when you move from place to place, you do have to at least go through that internship period and examination period to be registered in that jurisdiction as well.
Wow. Okay. That's very good to know, because it means that for those who are doing the thing the right way, you are not just keeping up with your training, but you're also keeping abreast of the area, the population, and the dynamics related to that particular population, so that you can give them the best possible information. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. That's one of the things that we are also trained to do. So we also take into consideration the person's social economics, their health, their well-being, taste preferences, culture, cooking skills, physiology, age, mental health. It's a lot of things that are taken into that individual situation as well. So I usually say that nutrition is something that's very personal. So when I do provide a client or any person with a meal plan, it is for that specific individual and not for their family member or for the entire household, especially if that person already has a health condition such as kidney disease or something like that, because that diet would be more restrictive than someone who is healthy and very active.
Wow. Well, that leads perfectly into my next question, because what you're talking about, there's personal considerations when thinking about improving one's diet. And I want to ask you then, what exactly are some of the other considerations that a person should be mindful of when one is thinking about improving one's diet?
Okay, so that's an excellent question. And the first thing I would recommend is to get a checkup, a medical checkup. Go see a doctor, right? So a lot of the times persons are not aware that they do have certain conditions. And that's where we want to start, identifying if there's anything that you need to focus on. Also, in getting that checkup, you want to make sure that you cover things like your blood sugar, blood pressure, cholesterol, your blood values. All those things are very important as well in making diagnosis. Also consider if you have a family history of any particular condition. So if your uncle or your aunt or your mother or father would have had some sort of condition like diabetes or heart disease or so, those are things you would want to know. Reason being is because studies also show as well that there's a link towards that. So having a family history, knowing what sort of conditions run in your family is also important to improving your diet. And then when you have that information, then you can move on to making better lifestyle choices for yourself. So knowing, okay, how we're going to adjust the diet. The best way to do this is to see a dietitian. And as I mentioned before, dietitians could be found anywhere. So in the hospital, in the health centers. So you could visit a health center, see a dietitian if you're just trying to get information on how to eat healthier, how to be active. So that's the next thing you're going to do. Adjust your diet. And also you would want to make sure that you are consuming nutritious foods on that diet, because you could change your diet and you may be eating certain foods, but you still may not know if those are the foods that you should be eating. Okay. Also, you would want to engage in more physical activity. So exercise is something that is beneficial and essential for everyone. And exercise has a lot of benefits, not just for weight loss and weight management. And the recommendation for exercise is about 30 minutes, 5 times for the week, I would usually recommend. And also, you also want to be active outside of this period of exercise. So, someone may just go exercise for that half an hour period and they may sit around for the rest of the day. So that's not what we want. You want to make sure that you're active throughout the day and not just sitting a lot. And lastly, what I would also encourage is that you maintain whatever healthy habits you would have implemented. sometimes when persons get to whatever weight goal they want to, they stop eating properly, they stop exercising as they used to, and they gain back the weight. And that's when these different health conditions can come on. So it's just about being mindful after you have implemented those good habits and those good practices, so that you upkeep them as well and remain healthy for as long as possible.
It sounds as if you need some money and some time on your hands. A lot of us complain that maybe we don't have the time to do some of the things, or we don't have the money to do some of the things. What do you say to people who may have those excuses?
Yeah, so that's another thing that we do consider, persons' salary. So if it is you're not able to buy certain options that may be more expensive, we can also recommend cheaper options. And especially in the Caribbean and somewhere like Tobago, we always would say, try to eat local as much as possible. It's cheaper, it's more accessible. You could even plant in your own yard, and that could save you a lot of money, right? So the whole thing about it is that everyone has to eat. That's a fact. So what do you put into your bodies? That's the question. So the main thing is to, as I said, try to eat local, try to make healthier choices that may not necessarily be expensive choices. For example, if it is you're able to get a vegetable at a cheaper price, you could freeze items, instead of saving them in the refrigerator for them to spoil after some time, because that happens as well. So you could buy in bulk, you could freeze, you could store items, and that's one way as well to make sure that you do have those veggies there as well added to your meal, because the vegetables are one of the things that persons really lack in eating in their diet.
Right. Vegetables, though, sometimes come across as so not tasty. so you kind of try to find ways to incorporate them. As children, they will try to cut up the vegetables and try to disguise them, but you still have the taste for it. So you know that it's there. Are you saying that there are ways to prepare some of these things to make them taste a little bit better?
Yes, of course. So one of the dishes that I know that we really enjoy in Tobago is macaroni pie. So there's so many things you could do to the macaroni pie to increase the nutritional content of it. So sometimes I would, parents of toddlers especially, you could put the pumpkin in the macaroni pie, put the carrots in there, chip it up. That combination of the cheese and the pasta and all those other things that goes with it, it makes it more palatable for the child, or even some of the adults who struggle with eating their vegetables as well. You could make smoothies. So sometimes you could add your banana, maybe to your oats. You could blend it up and make a smoothie. Sometimes for the children as well, you could do a peanut punch and add in the banana there, or whichever fruit it is they may have a challenge eating. And one thing I always mention to parents as well is when you have picky eaters, if a child refuses a fruit or a vegetable initially, don't just say, okay, they don't like that vegetable and don't ever try it again. You can try it and prepare it in different ways, because me personally, I remember when I was a child, I never really liked melon gin, and now that's my favorite vegetable.
Wow.
So, yeah, you could prepare it in different ways, add different herbs and spices, just as we do flavor up our food, and make it exciting for the individual. You could even add vegetables. Sometimes when you're doing stews, you could add your melon gin there or your pumpkin there as well too. That's a good option to get additional vegetables in.
Yeah, that's cool. The melon gin, I am similar to you. I didn't like melon gin at all. But now I found that I can actually bake melon gin with a slightly unhealthy twist by putting cheese on it. And I like it, but my daughter likes it in the regular choker kind of style. I don't know, I am totally amazed at how she likes that. On the other hand, I am a lover of zabuka, right? Avocado. She doesn't like avocado in its natural state at all, but she loves avocado smoothie. So we really kind of have to get creative where possible. Now you talk about the macaroni pie, and yes, that's something I suppose some of us do, because I put the pumpkin and the carrots together in it. But sometimes I wonder if it is really as healthy or if it defeats the purpose. One, because I like a really cheesy macaroni pie, and sometimes I may not always be using vegetable cheese, but also because I could literally sit down and eat a good half pan of pie, quarter pan of pie by myself, which leads me to the next question about portion sizes and the amount of food that we in the Caribbean region like to consume. Do we have an issue there? How should we eat?
Yes, definitely. And that's why when you ask the question about improving diet and what are some of the things we should consider, remember one of my points is maintaining healthy habits and mindfulness, and this is where it comes in. So when you are now educated that eating a half tray of pie is not the best option, it sort of causes you to think differently in terms of when it comes to eating. So if you do put the vegetables in the pie, it would be a healthier option in that, because you would have added vegetables, because sometimes it may not just be pumpkin or carrot. You may put bhaji or other different vegetables that may be lower in calories there. So you can get those lower calorie vegetables into those dishes. And if you take the same, those same smaller amounts, it would still be considered as, an ideal serving of that dish. So what I'm saying is that if you would have less pasta then, because some of the pasta or some of the cheese that you would put would be replaced by the amount of vegetables you add in. Yeah.
That's interesting. They say the vegetables so light. What is it with us Caribbean folks where we like our food heavy? You eat vegetables, you eat fruits, and it feels like if you need to eat every few minutes. How do we work around that?
So yes, we do have a very large portion issue, no pun intended, in Tobago and in Trinidad and in the Caribbean and in the world at large. But one of the things that I think we want to look at as well is the amount of certain types of foods that we put on the plate. So being able to balance those out. Now, when I talk to persons, I realize that they go from one extreme to the next. So they may go from having the rice, the macaroni pie, the cuckoo, everything on one plate on the Sunday lunch. And when they're trying to lose weight, they go to the next extreme where it's just vegetables and probably some sort of protein. Now we have to have that balance there when we are trying to make healthy eating sustainable. So yes, you want to have those veggies on the plate, but we also want to have other things on the plate to balance it off as well. So there's something we call the healthy plate, and this is usually the guide that we use in terms of planning out your meals. So on that plate, you would have a good balance of protein, a good balance of your staple foods, which would be like your bread, your rice, provision, all those different ones. And then half of the plate you recommend to have those vegetables on. So whether it's the raw or cooked ones on it. So we really want to rethink the way that we usually eat, with eating so many high carbohydrate foods on the plate, and really try to balance that plate with the other things on it. Now, when we eat like that, not only do our outlook on food change, we also feel better, we feel healthier, and we're able to include smaller, more frequent meals in between our main meals as well too. Because what I realize is that when we eat very large portions, we may not eat for a long time again throughout the day, and then you get very hungry again, and then you have another large portion. So to eliminate overeating, I would say, try to cut down on your portions and instead include small snacks, which would be like fruits and nuts and those kind of things in between your meals, so that you have more of a gradual rise in your blood sugar throughout the day, rather than those spikes that you get from having large meals at one time.
Listen, well, you're hitting right home with me there. And for, for those listening to this podcast episode, I have used Kezia's services as a registered dietitian, and I kid you not, I still have almonds and even some chia seeds. I still have because I struggled with that you just talk about there, in terms of the eating maybe long hours apart, and trying to put some healthy options in between to avoid a large portion, especially at an odd hour. Boy, it takes discipline. It's like the people who don't like to drink water, right? And maybe we should go to that. What do you say to people who say, and we have a lot of people who they say they don't drink water, they don't like the taste of water, or they forget to drink water for the day?
Yeah. So, persons should drink water every day, and a human really can't go more than 3 days without having water, essentially. But if you do not consume water in one day, a lot of different processes in the body could be affected. So the excretion process, where your kidneys would usually, you produce urine and you excrete different things from your body. Water is one primary function to help with excretion as well. In terms of using the bathroom, you want to make sure that you drink enough water so that you eliminate whatever waste or stool in that way as well. And if you don't drink enough water, that could cause you to develop constipation and even other sorts of cancers, such as colorectal cancers and those different things. So water is very important for a lot of different bodily processes, including transportation of nutrients around the body. All right, making sure that your skin remains healthy as well. Persons who are trying to lose weight, it does have some benefit there in terms of helping them to lose that weight as well. So water has a lot of benefits, and it is essential to life. Now, we do get water from some fruits and vegetables, like watermelon, some of your citrus like oranges, you would find some water in those as well. Mm-hmm. But water itself has 0 calories, and it doesn't give you any other added nutrients, right? So if it is you're really trying to lose weight, as I mentioned before, it is one of the things that you really want to do while lowering the calories in a diet or your caloric intake.
Okay. Now, growing up, they always said to us, or we always heard, you need to drink 8 glasses of water a day. I think it's not until I was much older that I recognized the glass measurement is not necessarily the regular glass that we have in our homes. Now, many of us may not be always on the ball in terms of knowing what is the equivalent of 1 glass of water. So if we use, like in Tobago, Trinidad, the Caribbean region, we drink bottles of water. For the people that have water, you will buy a bottle of water, or you have bottles of water at home. If we were to use a bottle, either the small one, the small, I don't even know how much milliliters is that. You will tell me. Or the regular one that, let's say, we pay $5 for, which I think is about 500 milliliters or something.
Yeah,
right. So how many of those bottles would be needed for an average adult or an average child per day?
So the 250 ml bottle, that would be approximately 2 cups, because 1 cup would be equivalent to about 250 milliliters, right? So that's the standard measure for water, or for any 1 cup measurement, I should say, 250 milliliters. Now, the very small bottles, those are about 300 milliliters, but you have the 500 milliliters and up. So if you do consume those 500 milliliter bottles of water, you would need about 4 of those for the day.
Ah, okay, right. Because one of the 500 milliliter bottles, which is the regular size one, if we were just going into the shop to buy a bottle of water, that's the equivalent, about the equivalent of 2 cups of water. About 2 cups, yes. 2 glasses of water, cups of water. Okay, all right. So for the average adult, 4 bottles of those a day.
4 bottles of those a day, and yeah.
And what about children? If you have like a toddler, because I take it the teenagers would need approximately the same amount. So what about the younger children, like children under 10, between 5 and 10?
Yes, so the recommendation for children is about 2 to 4 of cups of water for the day.
Okay, so 1 to 2 bottles of those for the day, and the children should be okay.
Yes, for toddlers, and as you get older, yes, it gets closer to the 8 cups. If you are more active, then you would require more water. So you may actually require maybe 10, 12 cups of water sometimes.
Ah, okay. Now I like how you talk.
So it does change based on the individual as well.
All right. So with those children, super active, hyperactive, little pick-me them, they consume a lot of sugar. Snacks, juices, that kind of thing, much like the adults. What do you have to say about sugar, especially store-bought sugar? I don't know. I think I read somewhere where they were advocating that we rarely give up the store-bought sugar because of the processes that it goes through and how it can damage the body. And they were saying lean to more natural things like maybe honey, and I don't know what other sweetness it have out there. I prefer honey. What's your take as the registered dietitian specific to our country on sugar and the sugar intake?
Yeah. So yeah, children, especially in Tobago, they do use a lot of sugar, and the recommendation for sugar generally is 5 teaspoons for females and 9 teaspoons for males. Now, what I would want to say
that's a day?
A day, yeah. We usually surpass that with just 1 drink, right? Yeah. So this is one of the main reasons too why we also want to pay attention to the types of drinks we buy for our children and make sure that we read those nutrition labels, because that's important as well. I realize a lot of persons don't read labels, so they don't know what they're taking in their body, all right? Now that is the recommendation for persons in general, as I mentioned, but you don't have to meet that every day. That's just the limit that you don't want to cross, because sugar in that form doesn't give any added nutritive benefits. All right, besides the sweetness or that instant energy. So it's what we consider a simple sugar, right? So meaning that it is easily digested by the body. Now, any other sugar substitutes would be digested in the same way as well. So whether you swap sugar for honey, for agave, for any other sugar sweetener, it would still have the same impact on the body.
Really?
So for persons who are diabetic, it's recommended that you consume your sugar in the form of fruits and vegetables and natural options. No simple sugars like sugar or honey or anything else, because those would greatly spike your blood sugars as well.
Wow, you live, you learn. Because here I am thinking that honey was a really, really good, better option, but you're saying it's pretty much the same thing.
it's a better option in terms of it would give you a little more nutrients than the sugar, but ultimately it still would have that great impact on your blood sugar. So honey, as we know, is natural as well. It does have some antioxidants in it, but it would cause that impact on your blood sugar.
Right. So you have to measure that.
Yeah. So for honey, a teaspoon is also a serving if you do consume it. But for persons who are diabetic, and especially if their blood sugars are not managed properly, I would recommend that you cut out those type of sugars in all form and instead consume the whole fruit instead. That way you also get the fiber, which helps to manage those blood sugar levels and how quickly they rise.
Wow. Let me ask you this. Mangoes.
Yeah.
I swear in my mind, nearly overdosed on mangoes already, right? Mangoes are extremely sweet. And I don't know, I just got the feeling like I'd eaten too much in one go. And so I was feeling maybe I might have had a sugar overdose. What's the situation with mangoes and how sweet they are and how much sugar you get from them?
Yes, so this is a very popular question. And mangoes, yes, they are very sweet. The riper the fruit is actually the more sugar it contains, or the more simple sugars are readily available. Wow. So I usually say for my diabetic clients, you could eat the mango like half ripe. Don't wait until it gets very ripe because there will be more sugar available there, which will cause a greater impact on your blood sugars. All right. Also, in terms of the serving for the mango, it's actually a small mango. So, you know the size of that green tennis ball that you could
yeah.
Yes, so it's actually not more than that. And for those large mangoes like Julie and those that tend to get very big, one face of those mangoes are actually the serving.
Listen,
right?
I think Caribbean people are going to revolt on that.
Yeah, and I usually get, they comment on that all the time, and they say, but my grandparents and parents used to eat mangoes all the time and nothing used to happen to them. But consider they also used to say, I remember when I used to walk from Charlottesville to Scarborough. Yes. And they would try to say those things. So they were a lot more active than we were. Now, I'm not saying that that's an excuse to eat more mangoes, but it's also something to consider that we are not as active. And because there's such a high incidence of these lifestyle conditions in our country, we really want to take stock of our eating habits, especially the fruits and the portions that we consume in Tobago.
Are there any other local fruits that we love that we should pay similar attention to? Right, bananas are said to be very sweet. Is it on par with the mangoes when you're talking about the amount of simple sugars immediately available as it is ripe?
Yeah, so that what I would have mentioned before in terms of the ripe or the fruit, the sweeter it is, that goes for generally most, if not all, fruits, right? So the serving size for bananas is actually half of a large banana or one small one.
What?
Okay. So, yeah, so bananas do tend to raise your blood sugar as well. So you need to be careful how much of that you're having. Usually for fruits in general, as I said, try to stick to no larger than the size of a tennis ball, and it's one fruit at a time. So you could have one fruit in the morning and you could have another one in the afternoon, but you definitely don't want to sit with a bowl of mangoes and have them one time.
Wow. Okay. Man, this has been quite the learning experience. You really kind of learn something new almost every day. I know that it will be a struggle for me to try to eat half a Julie mango because I love Julie mangoes. Like I would eat 4 or 5 one time, right? So if you give me one Julie mango, I think I'll take offense to that. But now I have to consider, okay, too much sugar. You're getting too much sugar from that. Now, before
one thing. One thing I wanted to mention there, sorry, is that for fruits that you have to cut up, like watermelon, pawpaw, and those ones, your serving is 1 cup. That's a measuring cup, right?
1 measuring cup.
1 measuring cup.
Measuring cup for liquid or the other, or dry stuff?
For dry stuff.
Because the dry stuff measuring cup smaller?
It's quite small, yeah.
Oh God.
Yep.
Because you improving diet, people. That's what we're talking about. Improving diet. So let us not focus on all the good stuff that we're giving up, because for us in the region, a lot of what we like is taste, but we have to focus on being healthier. Before we close, can you say, if you are a regular healthy person, perhaps not very, very active, but you're not diabetic or anything like that, what impact does all of this sugar have on the body? And what impact can it have on the bodies of children?
Okay, so for children, I don't know if you are aware, but there are lots of children as well that can become diabetic. And and this is type 2 diabetes we're talking about, which is the one related to lifestyle. And this is due to the consumption of so much sugar and sugar-sweetened beverages and larger portions. Also, even though you may not have any sort of conditions, it's still important to try to manage and maintain a healthy body weight as an adult, because being obese actually does increase your risk for other lifestyle conditions like diabetes as well. So you may not initially see the effects of consuming so much sugar or so many large portions at one time, but eventually it may catch up to you. So that's something that you really want to take stock of, and remember to always practice mindfulness with your meals, with your exercise. If you realize that you're sitting too much, just get up, move around, do some chores, start a hobby, do some gardening, things that would keep you active in general.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kezia. All right. This has been quite an educational podcast episode. Lots of information, lots of things to just remind yourself of. And I suppose a big part of it is being disciplined, not waiting until we get a bad diagnosis to make the changes towards improving our diet. All right. And you've heard it from Registered Dietitian Kezia Campbell. Kezia, thank you very much. At the end of the day, when anybody is finished listening to this podcast, the whole idea is that you would be able to handle your business.
Handle Your Business, a weekly podcast discussing a little of this and a little of that. Handle Your Business appropriately blends serious topics with fun topics, all in an effort to help you have a good or better life. So join me, your host, Lady Lashley, and some amazing guests every Sunday at 5 p.m. to explore everything from financial management to dealing with relationship challenges. Put it in your calendar every Sunday from 5 p.m. Tune in to Handle Your Business to get you ready for the week ahead. For more details, follow at Lady Lashley TT on Instagram and Facebook. Handle Your Business.